Alright, so the last class we would have started objective 2, where we were looking at how digital media evolved over the years. So we basically looked at how it evolved from analog media to digital media. We looked at examples of analog media. We looked at what is Web 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. We looked at some terms that indicate the evolution of digital media, and we did an activity there. So today we're going to continue with factors affecting the evolution of digital media. So basically, in order for something to evolve or something to grow, to be adapted, there are some factors that has to be in place that's going to either allow it to continue to grow or to restrict it. So for digital media, that's no exception. We have three factors that we'll be looking at, and that is affordability, accessibility, and increased connection. So affordability is going to be our first factor. And Arima, can you read that for us?
Yes, sir. Affordability. More information can be purchased or retrieved online today compared to over the last 20 years. Cost of accessing information has reduced significantly, as well as the costs for digital services have changed proportionally over time. That is, the cost of data services in 1990 would have been higher than compared to today based on the amount of data and efficiency at the time. Digital downloads are far cheaper than purchasing CDs and DVDs compared to printed materials years ago. Consider representing these logics on a graph. One has been provided with hypo- hypothecated data to establish the point that as services and number of devices increased over the years, the costs have considerably dropped or evened out its quality of service such as bandwidth, capacity, and features improved. That is device casting, device tethering, etc.
Good. So when a device or technology is now being created, I'm not talking about a different brand of that technology. I'm talking about that technology is now being developed. It's now being put in place. So like when cell phones were first created, we had landlines before, yes, but now cell phones came into play. Was the cost to attain one of these cell phone high or was it low?
Probably it was like back in the days it was high.
Yeah, it was high. And compared to now, is it any different?
Yeah, it's much cheaper.
It's much cheaper. Almost any person can be able to afford a cell phone. So basically, for digital media or for any form of media, when it is first created, it tends to have a very high price, a very high cost. The reason for that is because the technology is now being developed, and they don't readily have an efficient way of developing this technology. Over the years to come, they will develop a more efficient way. They will learn how to manufacture it much easier, faster, more affordable, and so on. So when the company over the years figure out basically how to develop this product at a cheaper cost, they will be able to offer it now at a cheaper cost to their customer, at a cheaper price to their customer. So this is a factor that affects the evolution of digital media. Now, think about this here. Or before I ask that question, can you think of any technology that we have right now that it's a new technology and it has a very high price? attached it? Nothing? Alright, let me give you an example. Samsung has a technology right now that is a new technology, a new form factor, and it has a very high price. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, sir.
You never heard of the Samsung Flip and the Samsung Fold?
Ah, yes.
Is it the phone?
Fold.
Oh,
Yes.
something like
Yeah.
a phone.
Yeah, so this here is an example of what I'm talking about. Now, any of you know the price of one of these phones?
No.
Expensive.
Yes, they're very expensive. Um, I think most of them are in the thousands, the thousand range, and I think even one of them, I think the Fold especially, one of it reached 2000 range. Um, Samsung Fold prices. Yeah. So let me see. Could I get all Samsung Fold prices? Let's review. I'll look at it one by one. Samsung Fold 1 price. So USD. So when that came out, it was what, $1,800 around there. Samsung Fold 2, that is $2,000. Samsung Fold 3, what is this one here? So this one here is at 800, but I think this here is not brand new, or is it? Or is it with a carrier? But it is a bit older though. Yeah, so 1800 also. We're mainly looking at the starting price. Samsung Fold 4, 1650. So if you notice what's happening, would you buy a phone that expensive? 1600, that's what, if we convert that, 1650 by 220, that's 363,000 Guyana dollars. Would you buy a phone at that price?
Of course not, sir.
Some persons would, but that's only going to be a limited number of persons that are going to buy a phone at this price here. So that is what affects the adoption or the growth of digital media, the growth of technology. It's affordability. When a technology is now developed, its price is going to be very high unless the company knows how to develop it properly to reduce the price. Otherwise, the price is going to be very high. And unless persons are interested in that technology, unless they're interested in that media, to invest in it basically, to pay the full price to be able to see how this first technology works. Only then will the company be able to continue developing further versions, further models. So right now, yes, the Samsung Fold, the Samsung Flip, they're very expensive. But as time progresses, as they learn how to develop it over the years, the next maybe what the next 10 years, so by what 2032, we all should be able to afford a flip phone or a fold phone because the price will go down as time passes. So that is one factor of evolution. Can you guys think of anything, any other example like that? A technology that started off expensive, but over time it got affordable.
So what about like when the internet was first introduced, like that?
Yes, that could be an example. So, do you want to explain?
Well, like it started in the US, right? Because it was just for their government, right?
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, when it expanded, it was like only limited. You need so much material and whatever not. So it
Mm-hmm.
would be expensive. But as those things became more accessible, it just decreased.
Good. That's a good example there. So, as they started developing the infrastructure, setting up phone lines, because back then, in order to get the internet, they would have had to set their own cables. But then they would have realized that look, the phone cable is already there. Well, later on, the phone cable would have came out, and they would have realized that look, the phone cable is there. Why not use the phone cable also for internet? Do you guys know that some countries also use the um, the electricity cable, the cable that gives you electricity for internet? Did you know that?
No, sir.
Yeah, even that is possible to get. So from GPL, we could actually get internet over that cable. So that was even a possibility. So what companies realize that look, the infrastructure is there. We have companies setting up cables running to all these various homes for landline, for power, and so on. Why not use it for other services also? That way, we can reduce the costs in order to do this setup, so that way we could offer a reduced cost to the customer, and thus they'll be able to adapt the technology. So um, we have the same for movies, series, and so on. Has that has that become more affordable, or is it still costly?
So I'm guessing like back in the days you had to pay to go to theaters to watch movie, and
Mm-hmm.
now you could download it for free on certain websites and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But that's the free part there is still illegal though. But the the ethical aspect of it, the correct aspect of it, is that back in the day, in order to access a movie, you have to go to the theater. You have to pay the price to watch that movie. But as time went by, um, yes, they might have reduced the cost for watching the movie at the theater. But now we have subscription fees, whereby you pay a certain amount of money per month, like for example Netflix, YouTube Premium, and so on. And you're not just paying for the movie, you're not just paying per series. You're paying a subscription fee, which allows you access to all of these movies and series at basically a reduced cost. So that there is another method of basically allowing customers to afford the technology. So affordability is our first factor there. Our next factor is accessibility. Janai, can you read that? Janai? Seems we lost her. Shante, can you read?
Access, right?
Yeah.
Impact of increasing internet access and lower cost computing devices, subscriber access through digital TV services, use of Chromecast and other devices to turn TV into information, superhighway, etc. Today, more digital content can be accessed via the internet, so no more are we as humans limited to information. But the superhighway makes it comes to us at our fingertips.
Good. So accessibility is the second factor when it comes to the evolution of digital media. Now, what is accessibility? It's basically, can a person gain access to this service, this digital media? Can they make use of it? So, like for instance, the internet, when it was first created, it was only limited to the government, and then it slowly started to expand over the years. Now, that means that in order for the internet to grow, persons had to use it. Persons had to say that, look, we are interested in this product. So if they cannot access it and make use of it and have an interest in it to be able to invest, then it can limit the growth of it. So, for instance, what technology is like that? Can you think of any example? Technology that persons did not get to use, or they weren't allowed to access to use it, and it basically limited how much its growth basically. Thinking. Let me see if I can find an example. Where's my cursor? Alright. So, have you guys ever heard of the Google Glass?
The what?
The Google Glass or the Google Lens. I think there's one of the two.
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
I think it's Google Glass. We type Google Glass. Yeah. So this here. So this is an example of a technology that but basically this would go back to affordability. This is more of affordability because when this glass came out, it was expensive. Google Glass price. What was the price? Yeah, $1,000. And basically what happened is that, well, this could be considered another factor. Um, is is the people, is the customer ready for the technology? Basically, is there a need for the technology? So we can make that another factor. Um, is the product or service needed? That could be another factor there. So when this Google Glass came out, yes, um, well, basically, how does it work? It has a camera on it, and it's kind of like augmented reality. You guys know what that is?
Sort of.
So, augmented reality is when you're gonna place some sort of overlay, some sort of element on your reality. So in most cases, it's like if you're looking through your camera. A good example is Pokemon Go. You know, in Pokemon Go, you can play the game, and it uses your camera to see the real world, and you would see the Pokemon in the game.
Yep.
That is an example of augmented reality. So it uses the real world, like this here, and puts the element or that character or whatever in that space, in that environment. So what the Google Glass did is it basically projected. It's like if you're using your own glasses, and it has a camera here to capture the real world, and it's going to project information onto this glass here. Now the idea was like, it's kind of like a sci-fi kind of thing, a futuristic kind of thing, like those persons who would have glasses and they would see a bunch of information in front of them.
Like Iron Man.
Right. Yes, exactly like Iron Man. So that was their goal basically, but it did not show enough information. It was obstructing person's view. I think the battery had obviously the battery might have had a lifespan issue also. So that there is another factor that will indicate whether a technology can grow, whether a digital media can grow. Is there a need for it? Is it going to satisfy a need? Do persons really want it? Because really and truly, what you have to remember when you're creating something, it's not what you want, because you could have the best idea, you could have the best game, you could have the best idea for the next big social media, but it's not what you want, it's what the customers want. The term is it what the target audience wants? That's the term that you guys need to remember. Target audience is the persons that are going to make use of your product, make use of your service. Are they interested in what you're creating? And only then will they adopt what you're creating to be able to make it further grow. Now going back to accessibility, that is basically when persons do not have access to various forms of media and so on. It can limit its growth, it can limit its adoption. So for instance, Guyana is a third world country, and we don't, well, now we do, we get access to technology as soon as it's created, but years ago that wasn't the case. So like when the a good example is when computers were created, we wouldn't have gotten access to certain technology, certain devices, and that would have limited its access. But accessibility can deal with two things. It can deal with price and location. For instance, do you guys know that even in the US, even though the US is a first world country having all the latest technology, do you know that there's still certain parts that does not have access to DSL internet and fiber internet? Did you know that?
No, I thought everybody had, these
Nope.
fancy things.
Nope. So even though the US is a first world country, they do not have access. Some parts, not the whole country, some parts do not have access to certain services, certain products. So it's not only Guyana, because just like how in Guyana we have a well developed area, and then we have other areas that are basically out of reach. They're so far away that persons wonder, how can we connect this far away area to this developed area? What they're wondering. Similarly, even in the US, they have situations like that. They have this central area that look it's well developed, but then there are certain states and towns in those states whereby they're too far away so that they cannot gain access to this content, to this media. So one example is internet, and those persons, they still have to make use of the dial-up internet. They have to make use of satellite. So if persons cannot access different forms of media, different forms of digital media, then it can affect its growth in that area. That's basically those 3 points there. Now, any questions so far? Alright, so the last factor, Arima, you can read that.
Yes, sir. Increase connection. To get information at the right time from people and from agencies. Traditional use of printed telephone books are now coming in the form of mobile application or mobile apps or through websites. Example, Jamaica Yellow Pages.
Good. Can anybody tell me what they gathered from this last point? What do you think is this factor here? They gave the example of a physical telephone book, but now we can access it on a mobile application, we can access it on a website. So what do you think that means? How would you describe that?
Sir, I think it's like with connection if you're trying to get on to somebody or something, right? Like in the past where you had like printed materials, like the book itself, you wouldn't carry around the book, right? Just because you need to find something, right? Because the book is very thick, right? But like nowadays, you carry your phone with you everywhere, right? And almost everybody has a phone, and they can access this information through an app, which is like better than a book because you will leave the book home, not carry it with you, and you can get access to people or places better, faster, anywhere.
Okay. Shanti?
Oh, I was gonna say that data and information can be accessed easier anywhere and anytime, but Arima explained better.
Yeah, but that's basically what I was looking for. That
Oh, yeah.
that products or services can be easily accessed from most platforms. So today you don't have to use a particular platform. When we say platform, we're referring to what we're using to access this product or service. So, like for instance, if we say platform, um, the internet could be a platform. That's where you go to access information and so on. Social media is another platform. That's where you can go and access businesses, news agencies, and so on. So that's what we mean by platform. Now, the products and services that we have today, the digital content that we have today, you don't have to go to one platform in order to access it. It's now all connected to each other. That's what businesses try to do. They try to connect all of their services through different platforms. So they would have a a Facebook account, they would have an Instagram account, they would have a Twitter account, they would have maybe a Discord account, they might have a Reddit account so that persons can post in a forum. They might have a YouTube account where they can post tutorial videos and so on. So no longer do we have whereby services are only offered in one way. You have to go and use this only particular way. You have to, for instance, the phone book. No longer do you have to go and get the physical phone book. It's now being offered digitally. And not only is it being offered digitally one way, not only can you access it through a website, but you can use an application. You can use a mobile app to be able to access this service. So, content today, services today, they're all interconnected. They're all being offered on various platforms. And when businesses, organizations, they do that, when they offer their product and their service on different platforms, it allows the growth of that digital media. Because, say for instance, when a person is making an application, they're making a game, do they only create it for one particular type of operating system or one type of platform? Do they? Do they create a game only for iOS, only for Android, only for Windows?
No, sir.
No. And why don't they? Why don't they just create a game for Windows only? Why don't they just create it for iPhone only?
Because not everyone has the same, uses the same service.
Good.
Not everyone can access it as well.
Mm-hmm. So not everyone has the same device. Not everyone has the basically the same device. Not everyone has the same device. So that means everyone is going to have different operating systems, different software, and so on. So unless you want your content to grow, unless you want your content to be adopted by everyone, then you're going to make your app, your game for iPhones, for Samsungs, or the various forms of laptops, and so on. Same for console games. When persons are creating a console game, they would create it for the Xbox, they would create it for the PlayStation, they would create it for Nintendo, so that persons who prefer that platform, who prefer to play with a PlayStation, who prefer to play with a Nintendo system, they will be able to access that content. But we have situations where persons don't do that. They want persons to stick to this one platform. They would only create games for PlayStation. They would only create apps for iPhone. So there's some situations where persons only want this particular platform to grow, this particular platform to be used. But it's up to them. It's up to them to decide who they want their target audience to be, who they want to use their product. If they want only a specific group of persons to use this particular product, then that's up to them. But if you want your service to grow, if you want the entire world to basically make use of it, you have to ensure that these factors are taken into consideration. That anyone can be able to afford it, anyone can be able to access it, that it's a need for that to that person, so that they would want to use it, and the service is not just limited to one platform. Any person can be able to make use of it. So those are our four factors for evolution. Any questions before we move on from there?
Sir, can accessibility tie in with increased connection? Like how you explain your preference of um, getting this application or getting whatever technology it is. So, like if I prefer to contact somebody through Instagram, a business, right? Would that be like, or maybe I am only uh, having Instagram on my phone for some reason, I can get access to that person or that business. Would those two tie in together?
I didn't quite understand. I think I missed the first part of your question. I'm not sure, but I didn't quite understand what you're asking.
Sir, accessibility
Uh
and
huh.
increased connection, right?
Uh huh.
Can those two tie in with each other? Like if you're
Yes. Yes.
taking a
Basically,
point.
they can work
Okay.
together.
Okay, thank you.
So it's kind of like how I said affordability and accessibility can tie together also, because um, if the price of the item is high, then that means that they cannot access the service. So like going back to the Samsung Fold, if the price is 2,000, then we're not getting to access that service. We're not getting to access that product, which is going to limit its growth. So they're basically all working hand in hand, but they're their own individual uniqueness to them. Any other
Yeah,
question?
no, that's not it for me.
All right, good. All right, so we're gonna move on to objective three now. I'm gonna post this later. So our topic for this objective is the types of digital media. So we basically need to get an understanding as to what are the various types of digital media, how they work, how they're created, how they're designed, and so on. So as you can see there in the objective, um, A, definition. We should know that digital media refers to a form of electronic media where data is stored digitally as opposed to analog form. So digital media, form of electronic media where data stored. So that there is digital media, which we should already know. And we have quite a few examples there. We have digital art, which is like a general category, and we have different forms of digital art. We have computer generated graphics, digital painting, hybrid, digitized artwork, 2D. We have audio, we have different forms of animation, we have apps and the different types of apps. We have video, photography, ebooks, websites. Those are the major forms of digital media that we are going to be looking at. Okay, so our first activity, activity 3.1, is, didn't we already do this? Record, was this earlier? Let me see. Did we do that activity where you had to get some definitions for digital media?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was the so that is a repeat there. Alright, good. Um Alright, so looking at the definitions that we have here, that we already have of digital media, um, you're gonna tell me what are the common characteristics. What are the common characteristics of the of the different definitions for digital media? So, what are the common characteristics you're noticing among those definitions? So, that. Alright, so have a look at the definitions that we have, and what are the common characteristics you're noticing among them?
It's all the definitions say that the common between all the definitions is that it's a electronic media and it's used to convey information.
Alright, so it's electronic, it's used to convey information. Good, anything else? What are the common characteristics this definition have?
It has something to do with the device or machine in order to use it.
Mhm. So it uses a device or a machine. Anything else?
And that basically runs on the digital codes such as binary,
Good. That's
if that's one.
Yeah, that's the major one. So it's in a binary format. So that's the major characteristic there. Good. So those are some of the characteristics of the you would find in various forms of digital media definitions. Now, our first example of digital media we're going to look at is digital arts. So we're going to be looking at all the forms of digital art. Janaya, can you read what is digital art?
Any artistic work or practice that uses digital technology, software, example Photoshop, etc., or hardware, example use of tablets, smartphone, computers, etc., as an essential part of its creation. Digital art is stored as a file that is an image format and later can be printed, projected, or used in a more complex or developed production, such as advertisement or game.
Good. So, simply put, digital art is any art that uses digital technology in order to be created. So we know what is physical art. When a person takes a pencil, a pen, a paintbrush, and they're using physical components, they're using a canvas, a piece of paper, in order to create this art. But for digital art now, they're going to be using technology. They're going to be using software and hardware in order to create this work of art. So you're going to be using some sort of software such as Photoshop, GIMP, Inkscape, and so on, and some sort of hardware like a computer, a phone, a tablet, in order to create this particular art. Now, one example of that digital art is computer generated graphics. Shanti, can you read that for us?
The use of computer applications to create or contribute to images in art, printing media, video games, films, television, programmers, etc. These are later used in a more complex or developed production, such as games, movies, etc.
Yeah. So, computer generated graphics. Have you guys heard this term before? Or something similar?
Yeah.
What would that be?
Would it be similar to like how you have number generators online and so on? So it just like generates a picture or something? Would it be like that?
Oh, that you're thinking about? No, it's not like that.
Yeah.
So, when it's saying computer generated, it's not meaning that the computer is making it. It's still a human has to go and design it. But what it basically means that they're using a computer in order to generate it. They're using a computer in order to create it. So they're using a computer application such as Photoshop, GIMP, and so on, or they might be using some sort of specialized software to create or contribute to this art that they're making. So on the computer, they are going to be creating this particular art. I think I already have, let me see, already supposed to have image in that. So these are just explanations. So that's digital painting. Why don't I have computer generated graphics? Okay. So these here are examples of computer generated graphic, or the common name that you would mostly hear is CGI, computer generated image. I'm sure you guys have heard of that already, right?
Yes, sir.
So, computer generated graphics, or more so computer generated um, image, CGI. So, you're basically using a computer in order to design various elements in a game, in a movie, and so on. So, for example, the character Smeargle, that is not the actual character. They didn't dress up anybody to look like Smeargle. They're basically using software in order to create that character. Same for Avatar. Same for Hulk. They're all characters that would have been created using computer generated graphics. What I want you guys to do is to search for applications that is used to create computer generated graphics, or CGI, either one. You're searching for applications. So that's activity 3.2, the very first one. Search for applications that are used for creating computer generated graphics. And tell me what you got. Good. So we got Autodesk 3ds Max, Maya, Blender, Cinema 4D, Luminion, Houdini, Maxwell, Blender. Have any of you ever heard of Blender? Not the Blender we all use at home. But Blender is a free open source software that allows you to create 3D models of characters. So this is an example of that software here. What was the other one? Let's check Cinema 4D. So as you can see there, it's used for generating various characters, various elements, props, objects inside of to be used in some sort of game or movie or so on. So that there is computer generated graphic. Alright, so maybe collection So let's see if we can find some sketches for CGI sketches. Let's see what we get. Alright, so let's see for Smeargle. Did I smell his name? What was his name? Anybody watch Lord of the Ring? It's something close to Smeargle. Smeargle? No. Nobody knows the name?
No, sir.
Alright, let me look at Avatar. Alright, so I want you guys to do now. Um, alright, so Janai gave us two there. Google examples of movies that are completely CGI. So, movies that are completely CGI. It has no physical characters inside of it, nothing of that sort. No real characters, no real person. Just strictly CGI.
The Avengers Endgame.
So, Avengers Endgame, but that still has um, real characters inside.
Toy Story.
Good, it's a Toy Story. So, Toy Story. So, Toy Story is an example of a movie that was made completely using a computer. There was no actual what real person inside of it. Nobody acting as a character. Nobody dressed up as any character. It was everything was done on the computer, designed by the computer. So imagine each and every one of these characters, they had to draw digitally on the computer and then move each one of those characters frame by frame. But this is why you were learning about the different frames per second. So imagine they had to draw various movements of that character, animate various movements of that character. So when you see animations, you can realize how much work goes into play into creating an animation, especially when it's a very high quality, when it's seeing a lot of details, when it's looking extra smooth. You can tell how much work they actually put in place for that animation to design all of that digitally. Alright, so that there is CGI. Next, we're gonna move on to digital painting. I think Shante, you have to read next.
Any method of creating an art object digitally or a technique for making digital art on the computer. Several computer software are used to create digital paintings. These include Corel Painter, popular use of Adobe Photoshop, ArtRange, GIMP, and OpenCanvas. Each software comes with an environment like a canvas being used to draw on. These are also There is also painting tools that are easy to be used and even mixing palettes, along with a wide variety of color options and effects.
Good.
Wouldn't these be used for like when people drawing mangas
Right.
and
So
or those fan arts that they
yes. So like what do you the webtoon? That's a good example too.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about.
So they would create like a background or something of that sort. Or I noticed webtoon they like doing a lot of artistic things.
Yeah,
Artistic
they have a lot of competitions and stuff.
yeah. So those are examples of digital art. It's basically remember we still digital painting. We're still looking at digital art, which is basically using hardware and software to create hardware and software to create different forms of artistic work. Just that we can further divide them down as per their use. So CGI is for like more characters, for in games and movies and so on. Digital painting, think of it like if it's actual painting, like a person actually painting maybe a landscape or a person and so on, but it's being done digitally. Because if you notice, um, like for instance this one here, a person can actually paint this here. A person can paint that physically on a canvas, but we can also do it digitally on a hardware and software. So landscape scenes, scenes of persons, all of that can be done digitally. And we have examples of software that was listed there. We have Photoshop, Photoshop, Art Rage, GIMP, and Open Canvas. So these are just some examples of software that basically allow you to draw when you are to create digital painting. Activity 3.3, open any software we use for digital painting. Have you guys ever tried drawing digitally?
Yeah, it's really hard, depending on what you use.
Especially if you don't have a stylus.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So stylus makes it a lot easier. So, um, shucks, I gave it away. Or do I still have it? Let me see something. Do I still have it? Oh, I still have it. Interesting. I actually have a drawing tablet. I'm gonna bring it to school one day so we can test it out. Yeah. So this is where the hardware aspect comes into play, because um, yes, we're doing it digitally, but now we're gonna need specialized hardware in order to create. What am I doing? Drawing tablet. We need specialized hardware that will allow us to draw digitally. So these are some examples of drawing tablets or graphics tablets. We have some without screen, like this one here, and then we have some with screen, which will allow us. But then we even have devices like the Samsung Note that gives you a pen, which basically is a stylus, to allow you to draw. A lot of persons use that for drawing. Even Apple for their tablets.
iPads.
What were you saying?
iPads.
Yes, the iPad. They have their Apple Pen, which allows you to draw also. So the iPad and Apple Pencil, and persons use that for creating their digital art also. So we have a lot of technology, and it's actually pushing persons to do stuff digitally now instead of that physical method. Is there an advantage of digital art? Is there any advantage?
They're not easy to become damaged.
Not easily damaged. Good.
You can work on them wherever you go. You don't have to like set up and stuff. You could just sit and draw.
Good. Work anywhere, anytime.
There are less resources, like you just have your device and you can draw. You don't need paper or like any kind of thing like that.
Mm-hmm.
So less expense.
Persons could argue on that part there. less expense. Person can argue on that because some of these tablets are actually expensive because you gotta buy the physical. But you can think about it long term. So you can argue on it, argue on that point.
As a one-time buy, you don't need to do it again.
Right. It was a one-time purchase, and that can last you for a good couple of years, compared to constantly buying different brushes and paints and canvas and all of those things. Um, you can easily make a change, easily make changes. So if you make a mistake, it's very easy for you to fix that. Any other advantage? If not, what are some disadvantages now? What would be some disadvantages? There's none?
What if like somebody could just like easily replicate your work and use it as their own?
So, um, plagiarism. How do you spell plagiarism? Plagiarism. Cheerism. Yes, plagiarism.
If like accidentally be deleted.
Good. Accidentally deleted. Mhm.
Pieces aren't unique.
What do you mean by that?
Um, okay, so the shapes and so that you'll be using, they're available to the masses depending on what app you're using. So there isn't much uniqueness to it.
So, let's see. So, basically, persons are using the same software and may create similar work. Yeah. That using similar software, they might end up using the same templates. You know, this software just give you templates. Just give you the same layout. So what could happen is that the same persons use the same layout, and they end up drawing something similar. Yeah, that's a possibility.
So what about technical difficulties? Like, you your device malfunctions, if the program crashes or anything like that, and you lose everything.
Good. So faulty hardware and software crashes. Good. Um, what about learnability? Is that a disadvantage?
Technically, it is like if you're given a software and you can easily understand how to operate the software and they give you templates, you can easily create what you want. When you compare it to like traditional art, you won't have all the knowledge on how to create your art. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and some persons they're not comfortable with technology. They're not comfortable with using devices. So it might take some time for them to learn how to use a device, how to use a tablet, how to use a computer, how to use the software. Because some persons, when they see a lot of features, they see a lot of settings, they see a lot of options, it can overwhelm them because they're gonna be wondering now, I gotta go and learn what all these things do. If I want to do something specific, I go and find where that particular option is located. So it can affect them mentally. It can put up like a block on them that it's too much for them to handle and they might not want to use it. They just like this simple pen paper where they can just do whatever they want on that particular um, canvas. So some persons might like that control more. So learnability can be an issue there. Alright, any other
So
points?
what about how the audience appreciates it? It's like how when people draw physical portraits and they hang it up in museums.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do a little drawing like digitally, it's just gonna be like, oh, that's pretty.
Good. Yeah, that's an issue.
Um,
Right, and that's an issue we have today. May not appreciate digital art because they might be thinking that look that you create that on a computer, you did that easy, that's an easy thing to do to create on a computer, and they might not have that appreciation compared to persons that do it physically, that actually have an artistic skill. So they might value persons who can actually do it physically compared to persons who do it digitally. And that's the issue we have today right now because do you guys know that we have that could be another form of digital art. So AI art generators. Do you guys know what that is? Ever heard of that?
No, sir.
So it basically turns your imagination into art. So do you guys know what is AI?
Not artificial intelligence?
Yes, artificial intelligence. Do you know what is artificial intelligence though?
Sir, I know what it is, but if I try explaining it to you, I might sound dumb.
Alright. Anybody else want to try?
is it where they enter a whole set of information into a computer and it uses that information to do stuff?
Right. That's basically it in a nutshell. An AI is basically a software, but it's a more sophisticated software. It is a software that is trained using different forms of data. So a person would feed it different forms of data, and it's going to try to learn the pattern from those data. And then from that pattern now, from that data, it can make certain decisions. That's how we get AI. That's how AI operates. So, couple months ago, AI art generators started popping up, whereby you can type in a word or a phrase and it would create an image for you. So let me see if I can actually find one. I think there's some free ones. Free AI art generator.
Sir, what about that filter on TikTok that you just write in a word and it just gives you one of those blurry images thingy?
Right. That is an example of it. That would have been created after these AI art generators came into play. So type in the word pencil, create. I don't want to sign up. Let's see if you can find one without signing up. Pencil, create. doing something? Sorry, I gotta sign up. Is this my creation? Is that a pencil?
Sir, I use Midjourney to create some stuff that I need for an IE.
Uh-huh.
And it works. You don't have to sign up. It's from Discord.
Mid journey. This here?
Yeah.
Yes, I still have to sign up. By the way, you guys get the idea, right? If you use TikTok, it's basically the same thing that I'm talking about. TikTok has a art generator whereby you simply type in that word and it generates an image for you using that word. And the issue we're having today with that is that, as Shante mentioned, the disadvantage is that persons they might not appreciate it. They don't consider it as true art. And he had a situation whereby a person he entered a competition, an art competition, with one of these AI generated art, and he actually won the competition. So some persons had an issue with it, that he won the competition with art created digitally using one of these AI, and they're basically claiming it's not his art, the computers and other issues that came up. So not all persons have an appreciation for digital art, but there's still a lot of benefits to it compared to not having um, any form of because if you think about it also, um, would you say a person with no artistic skill, can they be more successful using digital art? Would they? Or would they still struggle with it?
Wouldn't they still struggle? Because you still need to know stuff like about like toning
Mm-hmm.
and colors that match. And there's also people that draw with the stylus free-handedly,
Mm-hmm.
just that they use it to put different shades of colors because it's easier than mixing paint and stuff.
Yeah, so they might still have the same struggle, but there are some software out there that actually guide persons in how to draw. So in that case, it could be a benefit to persons. It could be a situation whereby the software can teach them how to draw. So that's an advantage there. The software could guide them as to how to draw. So not only teach, but like if they're drawing, it might give them certain suggestions that to do this, do that, and so on to make the art look a little more better. So to some persons, it might be more beneficial because they might be because we have some persons who cannot draw physically, who cannot paint physically, but they find working on software and hardware, working on a tablet, much more easier, much more simple. So they create their art much more easier on that. Art. Our next type of digital art is going to be hybrid. Arimo, can you read that?
Yeah, sure. Hybrid. A modern type of art which work with primary science and emerging technology. Artists work with fields such as biology, robotics, physical sciences, experimental interface technologies, and graphics such as speech, gesture, facial recognition, etc.
Good. So hybrid art is a modern kind of art. You know, when, like, how we have, exactly as the name implies, modern art. When persons used to create art in the past, it would just be like a art of a person, drawing a landscape. But then when we hear modern art, we think of more some things that are more abstract. So, like for instance, like this here, we call this here modern art. And then some persons, they might not have an appreciation for it, because, like for instance, this one here, they ask themselves, what is it? Why is this so artistic? Why are persons interested in it? But they calling it modern because some persons find meaning in it. If you guys look at it, do you see any meaning to it? Does it inspire you?
No, sir.
No?
Sir, it's just like my life. Not really unorganized. It's just all over the place, messy. Yeah, so definitely like that.
Yeah, so some persons, they find meaning out of it. And but this is the kind of art that we're talking about, modern kind of art. They're using a newer form of method of creating art. Now, hybrid art now is making use of different forms of aspects of life, like science, technology, robotics, speech, gestures, and so on. It's using different aspects to create art. So, for instance, let me give you a more practical example. Like, for instance, this one here. So, this here could have been a drawing on a wall, a drawing on a canvas, but instead they created a 3D model of this character, of this drawing that we would have made. So this is using technology to create a 3D model of this piece here to display as art. So this is one example of hybrid art using technology. These are all examples here, but I'm looking for more specific ones. So like for instance, this one here. For this art here, they use some sort of material, some sort of whatever that is, to create some form of art. So it's not only just drawing on a canvas, not only drawing on a software, but it's using actual physical environment and different aspects of life in order to demonstrate this art. So like this is another example here. They would decorate an entire room, design an entire room with the artistic pieces, or even the entire room would be considered this one artistic piece. It can be seen as a bit strange, a strange form of art. There was let me see, I have a video.
Good afternoon.
Alright, we're gonna watch this video. You don't have to focus so much on the audio. Just look at the how they would have displayed their art, because she's basically touring a building that would have created various hybrid artwork.
Welcome back to my channel. So today I visited the hybrid art fair of this alternative art fair taking place in an irregular alternative space like a hotel room, and artworks are displayed in the hotel beds, which I found very interesting, and fair taking place.
So notice they decorated the stairway here with some sort of artistic piece.
in a irregular alternative space like a hotel room, and artworks are displayed in the hotel beds.
So they're displaying their artistic pieces on a hotel bed.
Which I found very interesting and very risque, and I love the concept, so I thought this time I will not miss it. This time my initial impression was not that positive. I entered the hotel and I didn't see the normal hotel front desk. Instead I saw a group of young people and they couldn't find my name in the media list. Everything else was just fiction. At the very entrance you see this art activist organization from Ukraine, and there are galleries from Kiev, Beijing, Taiwan, Osaka, from all over the world, of course, as well as many galleries from European
So notice
edition
they're
from
decorating the bed
Ukraine,
basically there.
and there are galleries from Kiev, Beijing, Taiwan, Osaka, from all over the world, of course, as well as many.
So notice these examples here. They're using pages from a book and what seems to appear to be string to design their artistic pieces.
Many galleries from European cities. It was a nice mix of international representation and different kinds of artworks, from paintings, photography.
I like this one. This one's my favorite. They're using a toilet to showcase this form of art.
Video art, installation, performance, everything. By the way, I saw a guy sleeping under a hotel bed. Freaked me out a little bit.
Good idea. Good idea.
Did you know that a gallery staff could actually sleep during the night in those beds and get up before 8 a.m. so the bed could be made for the display of artworks during the day? So it's a great concept which you pay once and you could have the exhibition place and the sleeping place at the same time. The price range is from €1 for a postcard to $20 for a sketch and up to 5,000 for a larger artwork from a more established artist. The art fair cost only €1,000 per booth, so it's very, very affordable, and it's including accommodation. The room itself costs €300 per night normally, so hotel accommodation for free, whichever way that you think. This is a very good deal if you are a small gallery or organization, you don't have a lot of resources, so you can pay.
Yes. So if you notice, they're using different aspects, different areas, different technology, different different science, different materials to demonstrate, to create their art. It's a bit strange, it's a bit weird, yeah, but that's hybrid art. Any observation, any comments?
So it's very unique and it gives you different perspectives. I kind of like it, except that's why the thing. No, I would not. No, I would be very creeped out. Sir, no, don't go back and show me. No, oh my gosh.
Did I lose it? I think the spider left. Yeah, they look so nice.
For the
Sir, no, no.
Yeah, so that there is hybrid art. Alright, next we have digitized artwork, and can anybody tell me what the word digitize mean?
Like turning something physical into digital, sort of like that. Like when you scan a document, so you basically you have the physical copy transformed digitally you have it there on a device.
Yeah, so that is what digitize means. To take something that is physical, like if you're scanning a document, and it turns it into digital, one that your computer can now make use of, that your computer can access. So, digitized artwork is simply scanning a piece of art and putting it into the computer so that the computer now can further edit it or do some form of finalizing with it so that maybe they can print it, they can scan it, they can email it, they can post it somewhere, and so on. So that there is digitized artwork. All right. I think we covered enough content for today. We basically looked at today. We looked at what are the factors for the evolution of digital media. We looked at some examples of digital media, and we started with digital art. So we looked at the various forms of digital arts that we have. We have CGI, digital painting, AI art generator, hybrid art, digitized art. Next week we're gonna look at 2D art and 3D art. Any questions before we close?
No, sure.
Alright. If no questions, that's gonna be it for today's class. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, sir. You too. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, sir, can you please update the notes in
Yeah,
classroom?
I'll upload
Thank
it.
you.